I made a video about the Oclip not too long ago, and I got, in particular, one very buttery comment who was very upset that I didn't make a video showing the beam pattern in the dark. So that brings me to the point that if I make a video and your question isn't answered, just ask and I'll make another video. There's no need to be all buttery about it, but in any case, here is kind of what I came up with. So I have this kind of contraption here. So this is just a light stand with a tape measure, and it is from the bottom right here to the very bottom of the clip. You're looking at 4 foot. So we're going to compare the Oclip to the original Perun, just so you have something to compare it against, because it's going to go into why I made a complaint about the Oclip in the first place. So this is actually the Perun, and so I'm 5 foot away from the wall, and you can see that the hot spot, and the camera is about a 45-degree angle, so I couldn't get a head-on shot, but I'm head-on, and I'm gonna tell you that the bottom of the hot spot is right here. You're looking at about so from the hot spot, you're looking at about 46 inches. And this is looking straight on. It might look a little bit on the different on the camera because of the angle, but you know, I can tell you right now that this hot spot is just shy of 4 foot. Okay, so now let's do the Oclip. So that's the Oclip, again, 5 foot. And if I go, so the bottom of the hot spot is right here. You're looking at about just shy of 2 feet. Yeah, right about 2 feet. Okay, we'll give it 2 feet. So you're looking at 2 feet versus 4 foot, basically. Okay, so there is one saving grace here, which I'm going to show in the next part of the video, but it's that the red light, and I have to adjust the camera 1 second. So the red light from 5 foot away is about as broad as the Perun. I mean, you're looking at a good 4 feet, maybe even closer to 4.5. So the beams are definitely different. If you're at night and you just need the maximum amount of light, you're going to be stuck with that hot spot. But if you are, in a situation where maybe you want low light, or you don't really care about having a lot of light, the red beam is actually a very useful broad beam because it's pretty consistent from edge to edge. There's not really a hot spot. And the reason is because there's actually, stand by, so there's actually 4 little LEDs, one on each corner. So instead of one central beam, you have those 4. So that really helps with the beam pattern to spread it out. So now that you see the difference in beam pattern, let me actually show you a practical example. So here's my practical example. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have something that I'm reading, and I'm going to have, theoretically, the light clipped to a hat, right? So I measured beforehand, and the difference in height between where the book would be if I was reading it, kind of holding it up to about sternum level, and the bill of the, okay, so remember the bill, because the bill goes down in front, right? So the bill, where the light would be, comes in at 10 inches above the material that I'm reading. So I'm gonna move the camera, and then we're going to take a look at the beam pattern, looking at something close up, like having this light clipped to the bill of your cap. All right, so I have the page down at the start of the tape measure. Now, if I turn the slide on and move it down to 10 inches above the page, that's the beam pattern. So you're looking at about one paragraph, and I have the ISO and the aperture and all that set. So this is pretty much what I see. So it's going to be a little bit off because cameras just aren't human eyes, but what I'm seeing is that about a paragraph. So 10 inches right here. So about a paragraph width. It's what you get out of the hotspot. And there is a little bit of spill, but I find that if you just move your eyes, your pupils have to dilate a little bit, so it's not instantaneous. And you're going to probably have to move your head or move the page to get like a good spot. So for example, if I move it up to, so this is about 2.5 feet. See, that's kind of the spread I would want if I'm reading a page. That's what I would want. So in comparison, here's the Perun. Same thing. We'll start at 10 inches. So that's 10 inches. See how you can read almost the whole page? So right there, 10 inches. You can see a lot more of the page. It's a lot easier to read. And I'm looking, yeah, it's about right. Between my eyes and the, actually it's a little bit wider in person than it is on camera. Just a little bit. I mean, you know, maybe an inch on both sides. So that's the Perun. And once again, from 10 inches, that's the Oclip. So about 1/3 to 1/2 of a page. If you put it down the middle, you can see a little bit of the paragraphs on the side, but if you want to read the sides of the page, you're looking at about a paragraph. Actually, I'm too high. 10 inches is right there, so right here. So yeah, you're looking at about 1/3 of a page is the actual hotspot. So, but remember, check that out. The redeeming factor is the red light. I mean, the red light is fantastic for this. So I guess as long as it uses a red light, then my complaint kind of goes away. So the red light's really good for this task, this kind of close-up task. But if you're going to try to light up an area, you're going to have a problem. So let me show you one more scenario. All right, so here's our last scenario. The Olight is really marketed as, you know, you can clip it to things, you can magnetize it to things. So to me, that means an area light, right? And a thing you put up and it shines on an area. A tight hotspot, like a thrower, is not something you put up. It's something you hold and you manually point it at what you want. So if it's being marketed with all these ways to attach it to things hand-free, that means you're looking at an area light, not a thrower. So this is 2 feet away from the tape measure. So I have the light 2 feet away, and you can see the hotspot is tiny. Okay, tiny. So if you put this up on, you know, the roof or the top of a tent or like a little gazebo or something where you're trying to shine down on people, let's say you working or people working, right? You put it up, you clip it onto something a couple feet above your head, and you want to maybe shine down on like a table where, you know, people are looking at something. So that would be your hotspot. You're looking at the useful from my eye. I'm going to go from my eye instead of the camera. You got 10 inches max of a hotspot. And then you have, I would say, probably 3 feet, 3.5 of the lighter flood area. But from my eye, the lighter flood area is not nearly as bright. I don't know how it comes on camera. It's fairly close. It's just slightly off. So your hotspot is tiny, and then your kind of working flood area, even though it's wider, it's not bright at all. I would say as a ratio of compared to the spot, the little tight spot in the middle, it's a very poor ratio, right? You're wasting so much light on that little hot spot instead of flooding it and having a wider and brighter, larger flood area. So I'm going to move it back. I can't move it back too far, but I'll try to get another foot out of it. Stand by. All right, so now we are at 3 feet. So 3 feet away, so 3 feet above your head. So the top of a tent, the top of one of those kind of 10 by 10 little instant pop-up gazebos, right? If you were to clip it to that, that would be about the height that you're looking at above your head. So the hotspot is a little bit bigger, but you're still not looking at much. I count, let's be generous and say somewhere between 16 and 18 inches is the hotspot. And then of course the flood area is a little bit bigger, but it's also a lot dimmer, and you're wasting all that output into that tight spot. So there you go. And just to show you what I mean, here is the Perun at 3 feet. So there's the Perun at 3 feet. I tried different levels. This one is slightly maybe washed out, but the one below it was too dark. So somewhere in between, unless I start messing with camera settings, but I don't want to do that because I'm in the dark here. So that's 3 feet, and let's just compare the two really quick. So now you can see that distinct hotspot of the Oclip compared to, kind of overlaid on top of the Perun beam. I hope it makes more sense now. I hope you understand where I was coming from when I said that the beam pattern just isn't optimal. So for me, it's going to be the Perun. Now, if you have the Perun Mini, that's probably a lot closer. It's not much bigger than the Oclip, but if you were to ask me, should I get the Oclip or should I get the Perun? I would say the Perun is probably the more useful area light. Now, if you just want a tiny light, you want to throw it in your pocket, and you want a hotspot, then don't let anybody tell you you're wrong. It's whatever you want. But I just don't think that Olight should be marketing this as, all these hands-free options when you make it hands-free. It just doesn't put out a very useful beam pattern. So there you go, flame away. I know what I was getting into when I started making Olight videos. So if you disagree, tell me you disagree. If there's something you want me to try, or I didn't answer your question, just say it. Just say, hey, I want to know this. Can you make a video? And if I can make it, then I'll make it. All right, see you next time. P.S. If you're looking at the usability factor of the lights, because it's sold as having both a clip and the ability to magnetically attach to things, well, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but they both... they magnetize in a different spot, but I mean, they face the same way when they're magnetized. So that's not really an issue. And if you are concerned about clipping it to things, well, the Oclip and the Perun both clip to things. So there really isn't much reason. So functionally, I mean, they do the same thing. What you're getting with the Oclip is the smaller form factor and like the USB charging, but the Perun Mini is really not much bigger than, it's a little bit wider, I guess, because it's round versus that kind of boxy shape. But so really, I'm sorry, but in my mind, the only thing that the Oclip has going for it is it's a tiny form factor, which it is. It's great, but it still clips and it still magnetizes, and essentially it does the same thing as the Perun Mini, just in a smaller form factor with USB charging.